Like to learn a little something that happened here in the state of Iowa. A little Iowa history with the Iowa Almanac.
Yeah, it's Professor Jeff Stein, who's been very busy with his political abilities of interviewing various politicians and covering all the latest when it comes to what's been happening over the last weeks, months, but really 24 hours or such. Professor, we understand you've really been put to the test here recently. How are you doing this morning?
Look what you did there. Put to the test, she says. Who needs more than 4 hours of sleep a night? You guys don't get any more than that, right?
That's about average. Yeah, you're doing good.
There you go. So we're all there together. If you went to the polls yesterday and you circled, you drew the little line around that oval and then you filled it in, and did it make you think of back when you were in school and filling out those standardized tests?
Yes.
Well, it probably did, and you had those flashbacks. Well, guess what? Those standardized tests and the manner of scoring, invented right here in Iowa. Here's the story. High school students, of course, getting ready for college, wind up spending weeks preparing for standardized testing. It used to be, way back, that colleges had their own individual entrance exams, and that was cumbersome for those who were applying to multiple colleges because everybody had their own way of getting in. The Scholastic Aptitude Test, or SAT, was developed in 1901 as a way to streamline the process, but it emphasized cognitive reasoning. Well, leave it to an Iowan to use Midwest common sense to come up with an alternative that was focused instead on practical knowledge. You see, the University of Iowa had held an annual tournament for academics. It was called the Iowa Academic Meet. In 1929, University of Iowa professor Everett Franklin Lindquist began overseeing the meet, which got the nickname Brain Derby among the 1,000 students who participated each year. Well, after looking at data from that program, Professor E.F. Lindquist was able to create new strategies when it came to designing standardized testing. He used them in his work for the Iowa Tests of Basic Skills. Remember those, the ITBS? For 6th through 8th graders, and then later the Iowa Tests of Educational Development, ITED, for high school students. Well, one of his ideas was to provide separate answer sheets and scoring keys, as well as computerized scoring devices to increase efficiency. Before that time, you had your question sheet and you just wrote the answers on it and would take forever to grade.
There you
He's
go.
the one who figured out, you take the little slip of paper over here and fill in the ovals, you could do this much more efficiently. So in essence, this is all his fault, is what we're getting at here. In order to provide a better college admission test, everything else was Iowa high school that we just talked about, Lindquist co-founded the American College Testing Program. That happened in the summer of 1959. And it started strong with 75,460 students taking the first ACT test on November 7th of 1959. Now, it had 4 parts: English, mathematics, social studies, and natural studies, and it lasted 3 hours. Maximum composite score, 36. And it soon, the ACT, gained in popularity over the SAT because not only could it more accurately predict college performance, it helped identify student strengths and weaknesses, so it could actually help you in remedying deficiencies and growing as a student. And it is still used today as a primary way of measuring student aptitude for college. But the very first ACT test, developed by University of Iowa professor E.F. Lindquist, that was given on this date in 1959. I still remember, even though it has been, a lot of years, having to get up early on a Saturday morning and driving to the nearby community college and sitting in that room for 3 hours taking that standardized test. Yeah. Talk about bad flashbacks, right?
Yeah. Iowa Test of Basic Skills, that was around the country, and that's what it was called. I remember that from grammar school and things like that. And then the ACT test, it was a kind of a shock. I went to Cornell for undergraduate school. We went back and forth to Iowa City, and on Highway 1, right as you passed, I-80, just on the south side of I-80 was the ACT building. Remember the first time we saw that, when this is where they all went? And every time you passed by there, you had a flashback of filling those little squares out. It was pretty bizarre.
Yeah, a big sign that said ACT.
Yep.
And then if you were on campus or a student at the university, you know that the education building is called the Lindquist Center, named for E.F. Lindquist.
How about that?
Do you have a certain feeling? I think we all remember when we had to take these tests, whether it be the ACT, the SAT, or whatever variation you had, but also as a professor, do you have a feeling about these as they're kind of controversial anymore?
Well, they are, because some of the language in the questions was thought to not be as inclusive as it should have been. But they've been adapting over time because student needs change. The way students learn and display their knowledge has changed. And so they've all tried to adapt, because you still need some measure unless you're willing to personally interview the thousands of students who want to go to each college. And so you need some barometer. But I've never thought, and still don't think, that it is the only measure. It's one of the factors that might be taken into consideration. But maybe that's because I did not get a perfect 36, and so I have this resentment. I don't know.
I don't know anybody that has, although we do hear about it happen occasionally.
Yeah, not. I think I want to say 31, so I was feeling pretty good about
pretty
life.
Good, yeah.
You hear these kids with 36s, and you think, okay, well, still room to grow here, I guess.
Yeah, the kids that got a 36, they just filled out C for all the answers, and then that's how they got it. So
and lo and behold, it was right. Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it? There you go. But again, the originating right here in the state of Iowa, these standardized tests. Perfect. Now, if people want to go back and get some of the details we talked about, how can they do so?
IowaAlmanac.com is the website. Also, Twitter and Instagram at Iowa Almanac.
That works. So thank you, sir. Now go get some rest, because we know you've been going nonstop, burning the candle at both ends.
You're not going to get any rest today, are you?
No.
Yeah, not here either. But I appreciate the sentiment.
All right, take care. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.